with Tim Black.
I spoke to one woman who actually lives in this building, and she says she was detained by ICE agents overnight, and she says they took everyone and then asked questions later.
They just treated us like we were nothing.
Patricia Fisher says she came out to the hallway of her apartment complex on the corner of 75th and South Shore Drive in her nightgown around 10 Monday night, only to find ICE agents yelling police.
It was scary because I've never had a gun put in my face. They asked my name and my date of birth and asked me did I have any warrants, and I told them no, I didn't.
She says she was then handcuffed and released around 3 a.m. Fisher says she was told if anyone had any kind of warrant out for them, even if it was unrelated to immigration, they would not be released. Citizen App video shows the chaotic scene overnight. Neighbors tell us there were dozens of ICE agents. Neighbors like Ebony Watson says they ducked for cover as they heard several flashbangs go off.
They was terrified. The kids was crying. People was screaming. They looked very distraught. I was out there crying when I seen the little girl come around the corner. Because they was bringing the kids out too. Had them zip tied to each other. That's all I kept asking. Where's the morality? Where's the human? One of them literally laughed. He was standing right here. He said, them kids.
Watson says budget trucks and military-style vans were used to separate parents from their children. Other neighbors say they saw agents destroying property to get in the building.
And they had a big 15-inch chainsaw with a round blade on it, cutting this fence down. We're under siege. We're being invaded by our own military.
The FBI did confirm this morning that they did help the U.S. Border Patrol carry out a targeted immigration enforcement operation in this area, and they say they have been supporting these efforts at the direction of the U.S. Attorney General.
Led 300 federal officials to that apartment complex. Some even rappelled down from Blackhawks onto the rooftop in order to help secure that perimeter. Now, they were searching for suspected members of the violent Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua. Of course, TDA has been designated as a terrorist organization under the Trump administration. Now, it was the biggest show of force that we've ever seen on the ground here. We had agencies, FBI, Border Patrol, ICE, and ATF all involved here, and they were all looking for targets in that same exact building. It was a 5-story building. It was a tall task for them, and anything could have gone wrong. But luckily, the operations went pretty smoothly. Preliminary reports show that about 30 illegal immigrants were arrested in this operation, some of them suspected Tren de Aragua. Now, we talked with Chief Gregory Bovino, who's running the operations on the ground for many of these ops in Chicagao, and he had some words for people that are pushing back against his operations. Take a listen.
How about you live in the apartment next door to Tren de Aragua members that are trafficking and prostitution, guns, drugs, and taking advantage of American citizens in a violent way? Why don't you live next to them and then see how much of a Gestapo or a Nazi we are?
Good morning, Chris. Well, all is quiet here now. It was about 36 hours ago that dozens of federal agents wearing masks, carrying long guns, wearing helmets, swooped in and took off with about 36 people they say were in the U.S. illegally.
But they banging on the windows trying to get people to know it's humans. They transporting bodies in the middle of the night. This kidnapping.
That witness video was taken around 1 a.m. Tuesday morning. Footage shows people, including women carrying children, being led away by federal agents. We're told it was Border Patrol, the FBI, ATF, and more who joined forces to find members of the infamous Tren de Aragua gang. They were on the hunt for people accused of drug trafficking or who had outstanding weapons charges. A building resident took CBS News Chicago crews inside to show us holes in the wall that he says are a result of Tuesday's raid.
Like they had it planned out for weeks. It was like a movie. I got it on recording on my phone and everything. It was like a movie. It was really scary. They had my boyfriend locked up. Yeah.
He's a citizen?
He's a citizen. He's black. Yeah, he's a citizen.
So we asked DHS about that brief detainment of U.S. citizens. No response. We also asked DHS for a list of charges against the 37 people arrested. No response to that either. We also asked, does DHS have proof that the people that they took in were members of that Tren de Aragua gang? No response. However, we should note that DHS posted to their website that information released publicly will be limited right now due to the government shutdown. I'm Lauren Victor reporting live in the South Shore neighborhood, CBS News Chicago.
Earlier reports had people saying that
they didn't know how many people were taken into custody. People were reporting on this on TikTok and on X as if there were nobody arrested, like they just did this as a stunt and they didn't pick up any undocumented people. And according to these two last reports, it said 30 illegal immigrants arrested. Someone else said 3 dozen. Some were suspected Trinidad with open drug trafficking and outstanding weapons charges. Before we go any further, let me let you know the Tim Black Wolfpack is dedicated, committed, 10 toes down to reporting the truth, unbiased, and not working for any political party. If that sounds good to you, go to jointimblack.com, become a member of the Tim Black Wolfpack. I mean, not for nothing, that's something. That's not just random black people. You know, what can I say, man? There's always a possibility that things like this can go badly and the people can get hurt. And I think that's always the risk you run when you run this type of action, when this type of activity takes place. And of course, it's going to be scary. I wouldn't want to live in that building and all that type of racket and noise is going on. Who knows what's happening? You're seeing people with long guns outside pointing in your direction. Not a good feeling. I got to imagine. Not a good feeling. I remember back in the 90s, I was in Virginia Beach when the National Guard was unleashed on us, and that was some crazy shit. And I don't think anybody wants to experience that. And I'll never forget that experience of seeing long guns in front of me and people, U.S. troops in that way. But let's be clear here, man. People get locked up every day, B. People get arrested every day, B. Families get separated every day. When people go to jail, no U.S. citizens go to jail as families. I mean, this is some of the talking points and some of the over-the-top emotional, like, this is crazy. It's not crazy. This is pretty routine. There's never been a SWAT activity in U.S. in a project building before. Really? Maybe it wouldn't have been long guns like this and MRAPs and shit, but make no mistake, there's been a lot of kicking the door, no-knock warrant type shit going on across many cities in the United States. Many outfits, what about the Scorpion unit that killed Trey Nichols? Remember Tyree Nichols was killed by the Scorpion unit? Remember that? Was it Memphis? There hasn't been an incident like that where ICE, in the last 6 months or a year, whatever this is with Trump, has beat an undocumented person to death on camera in front of the whole world over nothing. But we black Americans have seen that, and still, I got black Americans acting like this is the craziest thing in the world. No, what's been happening to us all this time is crazy. We got undocumented people. We got people that are considered a threat to society. The Trinidad, these people, a terrorist organization. I mean, black people are a lot of things, but we're not considered a terrorist organization. And to the guy at the end who was talking about his boyfriend was locked up or handcuffed. Your boyfriend got priors, your boyfriend got charges, your boyfriend got warrants, was your boyfriend high? There's a lot of follow-up questions that were not asked. Was your boyfriend released? These are all good things to answer. And I'm guessing his boyfriend was released and they just didn't want to put that in the footage. So you got to pay attention to these things when you watch these clips. Also, I saw pictures. I heard them saying they were taking children out naked. But when I'm seeing children go out into these vehicles, they had clothes on. Now, I don't want to see naked children on my YouTube. I don't want to see that. So they would blur it out. But I didn't see any blurred out pictures of naked people. So I just question some of the reporting of some of this. I think it's being told in a way to give a certain impression of what happened. When cops come through and they do warrant serves, they serve warrants, when they do seizures, when they do these things, it's never nice. It is violent. All the time, every day. But I want people to recognize it's always that way. This is what it is. It's always violent. They never knock on the door. Hi, we're the cops. Hello, how are you? They always come in the early wee hours of the morning. They always come in and make a lot of noise, try to startle you. It's a tactic they use. They're using the same tactics that they've been using on Black Americans and white Americans in rural counties, rural cities, and rural areas all over the country where a lot of poor white people live. When they think you got a meth lab, what do you think they do? When they think you're selling drugs out of your house, what do you think they do? Huh? I've covered stories of white guys getting shot on their own porches. How you think they showed up? So I think we got people that don't understand that what they're doing right now is pretty standard business. I do not want to see this become violent. I do not want to see somebody lose their life during one of these events. One way to prevent that is, I guess people should not try to fight the cops, fight ICE, be yelling and screaming about pull off your mask and trying to inhibit them and block them and stop them from taking people. That you may not think it's illegal to be in a country illegally, but under this current regime, under the current presidency, they're not playing that. How about you fall back for a couple of weeks? Yeah, how about, why do you think they chose this building? I'm just, I'm gonna throw that out there. Why do you think they decided to go to this particular building on this particular day? Don't you think they want a good pull? Don't you think they want to look good? Don't you think they want their resources to be spent on something that gives them good coverage? We all know half of this shit is for optics, right? So evidently, in my opinion, I'm looking at it, I'm saying, for them to go there, for them to expend all of that money, that's money you're seeing being spent. They had to do so with some foreknowledge that there were people there to get. I don't think it's just random, oh, there goes the building, let's jump in it. It took planning. Someone said in the video, it looks like they plan to do this. Yes, they plan to do it. Why? Because people have been watching this building and seeing people with guns or seeing people deal drugs. They've seen that go on in that building. They've already got data on it. That's why they chose that building. It's unfortunate that there are people, maybe there are good people that live around there. I'm sure there are good people that are not involved in any criminal activity that have to suffer for it. That is not cool. And that's the part I don't like. That's the part that upsets me. Because just because you live in a particular environment does not mean that you engage in that particular, in those type of activities. Your money is what your money is at the moment. Your situation puts you in that environment. You ever lived in a bad neighborhood? I have. And when I was able to get out of that neighborhood, I got out of that neighborhood. I was young and I didn't have money to start out. Me and Mrs. Black, we started off, we were in a place that wasn't a great place to live. And we tried our best to get up out of there as soon as possible. So I know what that is, and I relate to folks who are dealing with these types of environments and hoping that they're temporary. And I hope for you that they are. It's not that I want people to be in harm's way. I'm just tired of people being hypocritical and exaggerating and making this narrative, right? That this is the hell on, everything's coming to an end. It's a civil war, it's the end of days. There have been jump outs, there have been SWAT teams, there have been special tactics been employed, there's been warrants, no knock warrants, there have been drug raids, there have been all of these things for 100 years in this country. Just because you weren't paying attention to them doesn't mean they weren't happening. And this is what I say about the Democrats, and I'll end it on this. Part of my frustration, my anger, part of what makes me a Democratic Party hater to the 10th degree is that the Democratic Party knows damn well this shit been going on all this time. But it wasn't until they could use it to try to go after Trump that they make it an issue. You don't think there weren't any SWAT raids under Obama? He deported 5 times more people than Trump has. You don't think during his deportations there were some scuffles? Guess what? You didn't hear about them. You didn't hear about them. And you know what? When they were doing that, when they were doing all these detainees and all the deportations under Obama, guess what didn't happen? You didn't hear about it. It wasn't on the news all the time. And guess what? There wasn't people trying to shoot up the ICE buildings. Why do you think people are shooting at the ICE buildings? So now we get to act silly like we don't see a correlation between the two. Many more people than Trump. The numbers were off the roof what Obama was doing. And there was hardly any coverage. You don't think any of those skirmishes got bad? Or you think back then in 2008 and 12, people didn't try to run? You think everybody was happy to go? Huh? You think people were startled? You think people were surprised? You think people were upset? I think so. You don't think there were some people crying, sobbing, parents being split up? Yes, yes. But guess what? You didn't know about it because they weren't showing it because it wasn't being used as a tactic. And all I'm saying is this is par for the course. This is not new. It's regular. And don't make it right. Well, know when you're being manipulated. Know when you're being played. If you are members of Tren de Aragua, I don't want you in my country. That's a criminal organization here to feed off of American citizens. American citizens look like food to them.